Good evening YouTube, Ian here from Coolice Charge Cases and Power Supplies. Hope you're all safe and well wherever you are in the world, and you and your family as well are safe and obviously surviving all this COVID still and moving forward with the rest of us. Anyway, you didn't come here for that, so as long as you're all okay, I'm pleased. You came here to obviously see what my current charge case was. Now, there's been a little bit of a break in charge cases because I've just completed the third swarm drone rack for the charging units, which will be, I think, effectively the last round using Revo Electric's PL8 Duo touch chargers. Sadly, due to Revo Electric's current demise, we will obviously be looking for additional chargers for that from a different manufacturer. So I will cross that bridge, shall I say, when it comes to it, because I'm hoping to receive more orders for those units, so that'll be great. The one you can see obviously in front of you, I'm not going to go into too much detail because this essentially builds on the design you've potentially already watched from my YouTube channel, and that is essentially two ISDT P30 chargers. Obviously built into the one deck. They are supplied with power from obviously my repurposed server power supplies, and in this case it's the 2400 watt, 25 volt, 100 amp setup in there. So there's definitely more than enough power for each of these chargers. Of course, they're obviously mounted in the nylon 6 deck, again, with obviously the 3D printed holders on the back, and of course then the connector outputs then obviously again 3D printed, and I've done obviously the laser etched bezels to go round them again. So that just finishes it off nicely in my opinion. Come to the back, we've got cooling fans. You can hear the cooling fans running. They obviously shift a lot of air, which is nice, because another little item that I've made, which I'll probably show you about quick in a minute, discharged my LiPo to 3 volts per cell. So I'm just literally putting it back to storage so I can put it back in the box. So this charger is currently running and it's probably going to beep off in any minute. But the difference with this one, and I'm sure you've already seen it, is the addition of the SkyRC BD250 discharger unit. And as you can tell, it's angled and inbuilt into the centre of the deck, with the XT60 output then to obviously discharge the battery to in the middle. So the eagle-eyed among you will potentially notice that the cutout on this matches the one I did for Michael Getter with his discharge case, which had two BD200s in it. This unit is the new, or should I say the newer version. Slightly taller, red base, and 50 watts more capability on the discharge side of things. Luckily, the overall shape and size is roughly the same apart from the height, but the case swallows it in this instance. So I've used the exact same 3D printed angled brackets on either side, which are then bolted in this case to the underside of the deck, and I've managed to then mount the discharger in the middle of a case as per the customer's requirements. He said to me, Ian, I want two ISDT P30s, I'll supply them. I'll also supply you with a discharger. Originally we were maybe looking at the ISDT version, and maybe it would have been nice to have kept it all ISDT, but this one offered a little bit more power and was obviously in stock in the UK, so there was less waiting around. So he went for this one. And of course, I already have the design to hold this one in place on the deck, so it was quite simple. So we've taken an already powerful case, okay, we have made it heavier by adding more weight to it. Sadly, that is the nature of anything with charge cases. The more you add to it, the heavier it's going to be. But we've obviously added chargers that can discharge at the same time, but we've added a dedicated discharger as well, which effectively then lightens the load of obviously having to use the discharge, having to use the discharge function within the chargers. Yeah. None of my videos are scripted, so sometimes I get it wrong and have to correct myself. But as you can see, it works quite well. It looks good within there. It sits in the deck nice. The deck, customer didn't want the carbon finish on it. He wanted obviously the natural finish. So again, with the nylon 6, I do just very, very lightly scuff it up with obviously the emery paper, and that just takes away the shine on it a little bit, and obviously I think makes it a much nicer looking material than afterwards then, especially if we're leaving it in its natural state as it is here. On this case we've obviously also included my rotary isolator switch, so in the on position the AC then go obviously powering the power supplies inside this then the positive from the power supplies then is allowed to obviously get to the chargers, so they're powered obviously off the AC lead. In the off position, that would obviously then turn it off, and I'm not going to do that now while my battery's charging. But then that would give the ability then for the customer then to use the XT90 as a DC, an external DC input for when he wants to power off of a 12 volt car battery, lorry battery or leisure battery, whatever he wants to do. And of course then above that then I've got an XT60 for a positive 12 volt out, which only provides that when running from AC. So we've kept it neat and tidy again. We've got the IEC AC socket on the side, and it's in between. It actually fits really well there. I was quite surprised. So even when the lid is closed and the catch is down, you've still got plenty of room there, which is nice. So it's not, you got no worries of obviously pinching your fingers as such between it, which is nice. And it also protects it from being bashed and knocked around in transit as well, because it's between the strengthening ribs of the case. And then obviously I've done the usual, very simple printed label in the lid, just to jog customers' memory about what position that switch needs to be in for various options, so either on AC or DC input. So you kind of help mitigate any issues whereby the customer is going to connect a battery and then obviously AC mains, which would then obviously give DC 25 volts output on the XT90, because in this setup currently running off AC, the XT90 becomes a 25 volt output. But of course then with the rotary battery isolator switch in the off position, we use that same XT90 as the DC input, because it's then connected to the chargers and the cooling fans. Oh, and then of course then you've got the USB port, and it's one of those ones now that it's the aluminium machined outer shell, but it doesn't come on automatically. There's a little button to turn it on, and obviously that's getting 25 volts from the power supplies, so that's what it's displaying there. So that's the quick charge 3. We'll close that. This one's being collected tomorrow, so I wanted to give it a quick check. It also worked quite handy having the Discharger here, because, and I'll grab it quick, another customer of mine wanted a battery kind of protection module. They also fly aerial photography, and they have a need to maybe charge smaller 3S packs. I think they said 2 or 3S packs for other equipment from one of their large 6S 15,000 milliamp hours or 20,000 milliamp hour packs. So they use I think it's a small toolkit RC charger off the top of my head, I don't know what one, but they wanted to try and safeguard the charger a little bit. So what I said right, I can make you a battery BMS circuit, and that's what's inside here. And I firmly connected that to the bottom side of this case. This is an aluminium case with obviously screwed on ends. I need to put the additional screws in the top, stop the lid coming off. So at one side then you've got the EC5 in, hence why I'm charging the pack back up, because this was the pack I used. And I also made use of the Discharger here to pull 8 amps of current from the battery through the BMS to prove to me that the BMS was going to then shut off the output when one of the cells, or all of the cells, if they're not kept in nice balance, reaches, I think in this instance it was 2.9 volts it shut off at. So resting voltage then, the LiPo cell, and there was only one, because there must be, obviously it's an older pack, there must be one cell that isn't working terribly well, so that reached 3 volts first. So of course then the BMS did its job, switched itself off and protects the LiPo. So the customer in this case can connect the balance lead. The only thing I'm going to do there, I'm going to put some hot glue against these back pins here and then put some heat shrink over the top. That will obviously allow, give a little bit more mechanical strength when they keep plugging the balance lead in and out, which will be nice. So they'll plug the balance lead in the EC5. I've got a little battery indicator here as well, so that's a 6S one. So of course then that'll display very quickly the state of charge of the LiPo that is being used as the charger source. And then at the other end we've got a simple XT60 out, which will then plug into the charger. So rather than having to rely on the charger being set correctly with the low voltage warnings, they can obviously rely on this, because if they forget about things or they keep charging too many times, the BMS in here is then literally monitoring the pack, and when it gets to just under 3 volt a cell, it's going to say nope, you can't have no more, and it will switch off the output. So the charger will just sit there idly, and at which point then this is actually glowing red. The outside battery glows red, and then you've got green segments in the middle then, which obviously denote, I'm guessing, each 25% of charge, give or take. So when they've all gone and it just shows red, which is what would happen, they know their charging LiPo needs to obviously be replaced for another one, and they can carry on charging their 2 or 3S packs as they require. So that was another thing I've been doing in the background, and that's actually worked out quite nice actually. It's a little aluminium case off of eBay, BMS as well, and I firmly connected that to the base of this unit, so if it does get a little bit warm, say they wanted to try and charge the LiPo through this, they could, but they won't. They'll use their iChargers for that. But this would be quite nice. They can throw it in the case or stick it in their van, and they'll be protected. So it's another little bit that's done. And then this is still going in the background. I'm guessing it's probably, yeah, it's still balancing one of the cells. It's an old pack, but it's doing its job nicely. So bye bye case. You've done well for me. I've got your design down now, so if anyone else wants one like this, I can do it. As usual, thanks for watching. Please like, subscribe and share, and for all your charge casing needs, you know where I am. Take care of yourself. Cheers. Bye.